Hello, my friends. On today's episode, I'm back with Ben Pickard. And in today's episode, we're talking about a brand new tool that we have in our toolbox here at Business Unicorns. Because we know all of you listening that are gym owners, what you really want is three things. You want more income, you want more impact, and you want more freedom. So we designed for you a self-assessment tool to help you think through those three goals and how to get more of them. And so if you want more income in your business, to make more impact in your life and work, and you want more freedom and flexibility in your life to live each day as its fullest, you want to build a gym and a life that you love, this is a great episode for you, my friends. Keep on listening. Hello, fitness business nerds. What's up? Welcome to another episode of the Business Unicorns podcast. Before we jump into today's episode, I got a little news for you. We're doing a free 2-hour webinar coming up shortly. And here's why. Because we see that too many gym owners stumble into the new year without a plan to grow their business. And when you do have a plan, sometimes you have a marketing calendar that's maybe a little overcomplicated. Maybe the execution is inconsistent. The offers are a little awkward or clunky. But what if I could tell you that we could take the guesswork out for you? What if there was a system, and spoiler alert, there is, that was simple and effective and we would give it to you for free? Well, you know what, my friends? That's exactly what we're doing. We have a free 2-hour webinar with Mr. Mark Fisher himself, where he's going to pull back the curtain to the exact plan that he uses to help our Unicorn Society members and his own gyms get results. As an attendee, you will get this marketing plan that's super simple to follow and will make next year, 2025, your best year yet for lead generation. So if that sounds fun to you and you want a simple, effective plan for marketing, click the link below in the show notes and sign up to claim your spot for the webinar today. Which brings me to today's episode with Mr. Ben Pickard. What's up, my friend?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
You're back in the guest seat. You've been taking over this podcast so much lately. What's it like to be back in the guest seat?
It's refreshing. It's nice to be the one, with all credit to you, because you've been doing, 400 of these episodes, give or take?
It's been a few.
You want to deliver. Like you want to ask compelling questions that you think listeners would also have those questions about to make it as valuable as possible. And sometimes it's nice to just be like, hey, somebody's going to ask you stuff and you're going to answer it based on the information you've experienced and know. I'm not trying to downplay that we don't prepare for these by any stretch, but there's a little more preparation that goes into being the host. If nothing else, making sure that you nail the blurb, which you did great on.
I do okay. I'm not good at nailing blurbs, but I'm good at other things. So I'm glad everyone's kept me around this long. Well, I just want to say publicly on this podcast, thank you so much for taking over and hosting a few episodes recently. Our listeners are going to hear more of Ben doing that, in part because I don't want everyone to get so sick of me. I've been doing this for a while. I think it's good to hear some other voices, good to hear some other conversations, people asking questions that I never would have thought of. Frankly, talking about topics that maybe you're just like, I can't add a lot of value to. So I'm so excited you're doing it. It's great to have you and Pete and Fisher on just more and more often. So thank you for doing it.
Happy to help. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Which brings us to today's topic, which is something we're right now calling our income impact freedom model. This is like a triangle model. That's the shape of this model. I want you to picture in your heads, dear listeners. And this is a tool that we've made in the last year or two for helping our Unicorn Society members really understand and self-assess what matters most in the business, the kind of systems you need to develop in growing your gym. So what we're going to do on today's in today's episode, I'm doing great. In today's episode is Ben is going to walk you through kind of what this model is and help you in real time assess your own gym, do a little bit of a self-assessment while you're listening to this podcast about what areas of your gym are you crushing, what areas of your gym are you not crushing so much that are opportunities for improvement. And so I don't want to give any more spoilers, but Ben, you want to just give your own thoughts about what is this income impact freedom model, and how should people think about it?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think about this as like the 10,000 foot view of your gym. And I know from owning a gym, as all y'all probably know I do, that sometimes it's really difficult to see the forest for the trees. And we spend so much time in it and on it that sometimes we forget to zoom out and be like, are things good? Are they working? Or we know comparison is the thief of joy, but it can also be a useful yardstick to like, Like, how am I doing?
Yeah.
And I want to, it's funny because this is such a simple model, and I don't want to downplay the significance of it because, I think it's Hemingway that said, if I had more time, I'd write a shorter letter. It's the same type of idea. Like, explain your philosophy on program design in 3 sentences or less.
Yep.
That's tough.
That's
Explain
tough.
your philosophy on program design on 900 pages. We're all going to do fine.
Yeah.
So we spent a lot of
But
time.
who wants to read 900 pages? Nobody.
Well, sometimes we feel we have 900 pages of information to share, but point taken.
Yeah, which is why it's such a worthy goal is to be brief. It's such like a worthy reach is to the more succinct you can be, the more people you can help, because not everyone's going to read 900 pages. But when they look at a triangle model with 3 sides and nine drivers, maybe that's a really good point.
So we worked really hard to make this as simple as possible, that it's an assessment you can do in 5, maybe 10 minutes. I'd say if it takes you longer than 10 or 15 minutes, you're probably overthinking it. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be shoot from the hip. That's part of the value of this. And through looking at hundreds of gyms at this point, I'm not even sure how many, we figured out, like, what are the 3 main categories gyms need to focus on to be successful. Saying successful is a broad brush painted bucket. And then within each of those 3 categories, there's 3 subcategories. And if you're nailing these, your goals are being reached, both personal, financial, professional, family. It's really intended to be all encompassing. So again, the summary is, this is the 10,000 foot view of your gym that if you're in it a lot, it probably serves you to back up and look on it a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. All right, well, let me paint a visual picture for all of you, because this is a visual model. Maybe if we can, we'll include just a link down to the visual in the show notes. People who are visual learners like myself can get a visual. But first thing I want you all to picture in your mind, friends, is like a 3-sided triangle. On one side is impact. On one side is income, and the other side is freedom. And so, and under each of those, there's like 3 little offshoots, 3 little subcategories under each of them. So let's start with income. And Ben, you want to kind of walk through how this self-assessment works?
Absolutely. So we keep it simple, kind of like the FMS. There's 3 levels of success. There's red, there's yellow, and there's green. It's a traffic light. Red means you either don't have this system, or you have this system, but nobody's following it, possibly including yourself, or you have this system, but it's absolutely not working for you. Red is it's non-existent or broken. Yellow is we have it and it kind of works, but it kind of doesn't. It's not really polished. Not everyone follows it the same. Like, it exists, but it's clunky. And then green is as you'd expect. We have it and it's working. Now, I want to clarify, just for the people who are maybe a little bit hard on themselves out there, green doesn't mean it's flawless.
Yeah.
There's always room for improvement. We all believe in Kaizen. There's a reason we're helping people change their bodies and their lives through fitness. It's like, by default, we generally believe in growth. And that doesn't mean that you can't celebrate the fact that you've got a thing that's working really well. So green is, it's predictable, it's working, and let's just say it's like 80+% of the way there.
Yeah. I would even double down on that and say I think green should stand for good enough for now.
Great. Perfect. More succinct.
Yeah, which I think is, it's hard to say that as people who are entrepreneurs and problem solvers and believe in excellence. It's hard to give yourself a green light sometimes, but if it's good enough for now, that's okay. That means you're done and that gets a green light. So I love that. So listeners, as you're going through all of these, 3 sides of the triangle with these 9 categories around it, really think through, is this a red, a yellow, or a green for me? And if you want to break out a piece of paper or open up the notes app on your phone, I think it's useful to write down these 3 sides, these 9 categories, and put a red, yellow, or green next to it as you're doing this. Like, make this a practical podcast that you're not just listening to, but actually working through in real time. As Ben explains that, you'll get more out of it.
Big time. Yeah, the rating yourself is exactly the intention of this exercise.
Yeah. So walk through. Let's start with the income side of the triangle. Let's start there.
Yeah. So when we think about how do you increase the income in your gym, there's 3 pieces that go into it. So the first is having consistent lead flow. And the key word here is consistent, meaning it's relatively predictable. You know what your lead sources are. You could guess or know roughly how many leads are we getting on average per week. So you could safely assume you're probably going to get that many, or hopefully more, in the coming weeks. But are you getting consistent leads, or does it feel like, and you have systems for getting consistent leads, or does it feel like, oh man, I don't know where our next lead's coming from, and I soon. So obviously, you want to make more money. You need people who are interested in paying you that money. So rate yourself red, yellow, or green.
Great.
Second piece for income is having a frictionless sales process. Because as we know, somebody saying, hey, I'm potentially interested in that offer or joining your gym, or my friend goes there, or whatever, doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to sign up for your gym. It might not be the right fit. There's lots of reasons people don't join. But the second piece is having a frictionless sales process that can take somebody from raising their hand to say, hey, I'm interested in what you do, to getting them to become a full-fledged member. So in my mind, that goes beyond just your initial low barrier offer or trial offer. It's from hand is raised, maybe you then have a discovery call, you move them to a consultation, then you have a sell them on a membership meeting after that. It could be buying a trial on the website and then how you convert them. It doesn't really matter what your process is for this. It's that you've just got a proven process that works and is predictable.
Great. Love that. So go ahead and rate yourselves friends. Red, yellow, green on that. Do you have a predictable, frictionless sales system? Then what's the third one?
The third one is all about money mastery. So as we know, it's not about what you make, it's what you keep, right? If you make $1 million a year in your gym and you spend $999,999 of it, that might not be the best business for you. So money mastery is really, do you have a system for managing that money when it comes in? You've got people raising their hand. You've got a way to get them to a membership and recurring revenue, which is like the gold of a gym from a financial standpoint. But then do you have a way of managing that money? So an easy example of this would be, to use a system like Profit First. I don't think it's the perfect system for everybody, but it's probably one of the best. Just for the record, you're not red if you don't use Profit First. It's just an example.
Sure.
Another example of this would be like, do you have a bookkeeper who sends you a profit and loss on a regular basis? Do you, at the end of the year, are you scrambling to pay your taxes, or do you have some of that money set away? Do you have an accountant who works with you to make sure that you're, doing appropriate things from a tax perspective, not just not doing accidentally illegal things, but also like using that capital to invest in your staff, or maybe open a second location, or put back into getting more consistent leads. But like, you have a system for managing your money. Or I guess red would be when it comes in and you just like, shit, I hope there's enough money in the bank account to cover next month's expenses.
Yeah.
I would argue
that's a good example of red. Yeah. Just winging it.
I would argue money mastery isn't how much money do you have. It's, do you have a way of using that money to do more of what your purpose and mission is?
Yeah, I think that's a great distinction, right? Money mastery. Giving yourself a green doesn't mean I'm making all the money I wanted. Green means I have systems in place to make sure that with the money I am bringing in, I'm as profitable as I can be, that I'm trying to pay myself, etc. So let me just summarize. So the first side of the triangle is about the income side, and the three categories are consistent lead flow, frictionless sales, and money mastery. So make sure you give yourself a red, yellow, or green on all three of those categories as we go through. And then let's keep going. Let's move on to the second side of the triangle, which is impact. What are the categories here?
So impact is a fun one, because this is, at least speaking for myself, this is the reason I opened a gym. I wanted to do a better job than I thought other gyms in the area or the one I was working at was doing. So impact is usually kind of a piece that speaks to our soul, to be a little bit woo-woo about it.
Yeah.
So when we're thinking about impact, the question is like, are we making as positive an impact as we can in our communities? So the first piece of that is, do you have 6-star service? And obviously the kind of intended joke here is that like Google reviews go to 5-star. Are you going above and beyond? Do you have service for your customers that just wows them at every opportunity? We talk about this with our Clients for Life course, with like the tiers of customer service. And even if you haven't taken that course, it's like, it's not just, do you have good fulfillment and good program design, or do you have energetic coaches who look and eat and sleep the part? It's like, do you have email response standards in place? Do you have face-to-face customer service standards in place? Have you made things as frictionless as possible for your clients to have a great experience and get the results they want? So it's, are you delivering all the things that your community is looking for and asking for? And I want to caveat that as sometimes our members ask for things that are unreasonable. It's not, are you saying yes to everything? It's that, are you delivering consistent service, which generally the metric for this would be around retention or attrition.
Yeah. And your clients are getting results. They're staying. Your average rate per member, your average, revenue per member per month is consistent and strong. People are liking the experience you're creating for them. I think that's fantastic. So first driver of impact is 6-star service. What's the second?
Second one is having razor sharp systems. And you could make an argument that 6-star service requires systems, but we differentiate them because one of them is customer facing and one of them is kind of team or internal facing. But it's a system to me, and I know I'm kind of the systems guy at BFU, but I don't know if I know anything that anyone else on the team doesn't. It's basically an if then that. If this, then that. When something happens, is there a process in place that we know what the next step is? Example would be a lead raises their hand. Do we know what the next step is? When someone requests a freeze, do we know what the next step is? When you get paid, do you know what the next step is? So systems are obviously a big bucket, and literally everything can be systemized, but is there a predictable next step for the things that come up? It doesn't mean you're not going to get hit with, curveballs. Can I do a funny story real quick?
Sure.
So at my gym, we have a loading dock. Our gym is like a half story up from ground level. So you go up like 6 steps to get in. And there's a loading dock because it used to be kind of like a warehouse thing. We put it into a gym, like most gyms are, kind of a warehousey thing to begin with. Anyways, Guelph has a homeless problem. And under the loading dock, there's like these nice 3 foot by 3 foot, 9 foot square holes. And we had a homeless person living under the loading dock. Obviously, we don't have a system for what do we do if there's a homeless guy under the loading dock?
Yeah.
So there are exceptions to razor sharp systems. It's not about
you're going to be thrown some curveballs. Yeah. I think it's a great point though. But for all the things that do happen consistently that you expect to happen in the business, have you recorded what the best thinking is for how to do it? Is there a clear process in place for the things that matter most? And you're right. This category of razor sharp systems covers a lot of ground, but it's really just the idea that you can't make impact if you don't have a consistent method for delivering results. If you don't have a consistent method for how you get the work done, you're not going to be able to make consistent impact. So I think that's why it goes on this side of the triangle, and it can really be a category in and of itself. So we got 6-star service, razor sharp systems. What's the third driver of impact?
Third one is, as you may expect, a high performing team. We've got the client facing, we've got the systems that make it all work, and the last piece is having a team that is like everything from living the values to executing the systems to delivering that high 6-star service.
Yeah.
And this ties into some other categories a bit with like management and leadership. How do you get your staff doing the right thing? It's not enough to just bring a trainer on with a good level of experience and like give them a long leash and let them run. That's usually not a good idea in my experience. But do you have systems in place around like regular check-ins and one-on-one meetings? Do you have team meetings? Do you talk about your standards? Do you do trainer audits? Do you have standards for program design? Is your team doing the things that they need to do in order to make all the other things work? And this is a perfect place to kind of mention that none of these exist in silos. It's not like a lead to a sale. You could argue where the line is. Money mastery, there's different ways to do it. 6-star service, high performing team. This is more of a Venn diagram when you're picturing it, but it is a key piece of like, are your staff delivering what they've agreed to deliver? And are you helping them continue to grow over time so they can become those high performers? And this one's really important to me because the average tenure of a trainer in the industry is 25 minutes or whatever it is nowadays, very low. If we want to have our trainers, this is me, personal values, not necessarily BFU, but if we want to make the impact that we want to make, some of it's going to require staff who have been with us for a period of time. And in order for them to be with us for a period of time, we have to do things that, like, it's a two-way street to meet them where they're at, train them up what they need work on, whether it's customer service, programming, et cetera, so that they can deliver the impact that's part of your vision and mission.
Yeah, well said, my friend. I think that's really smart. So the impact side has got 6-star service, really great delivery on your clients, razor sharp systems, processes in place to do all the most important work consistently, and a high performing team, which is really the ones making the impact, right? The ones interacting with your clients on a regular basis. And you have the right people in the right seats that are clear about their jobs and are sticking around and learning over time. So those are the 3 areas of impact. So listeners, make sure that you've got those 3 down: 6-star service, razor sharp systems, high performing team. Give yourselves a red, yellow, or green in each of those areas. And let's keep moving on. The third side of the triangle is freedom. Before we dive in, I want to give a disclaimer that my dog is outside and just started barking his face off. So if you hear some barking in the background, he's not being abused. He just saw a deer in my yard. That's what he's up to. But
Being abused.
Yeah, he's not being abused. He's perfectly healthy and fine, and just is excited. Pippin just loves.
That Michael takes great care of his dog.
Yes, Pippin loves barking at deer. All right, so third side of the triangle is freedom, and there's 3 important categories here. First, can you just talk a little bit about like Why freedom?
Yeah, great question. Well, I mean, we think of BFU as helping you build a gym and life you love. And making lots of money and making a lot of impact is great, but at what cost? And I want to be clear, I'm not assuming your values and my values are the same. Everyone gets to, like, I truly believe everyone gets to define what their version of freedom is. And speaking from my experience, I had a gym that was crushing it financially, making an amazing impact with outstanding retention. We were like 2% attrition a month. And I was working like a million hours a week and doing all the things myself. It relied on my elbow grease. And the freedom's an important piece of the equation because we want to have a business that lasts longer than our interest. We're going to have that build in some freedom for us so we can continue to serve our communities. It can't
Yeah.
be a thing that's like, hey, I'm going to be a trainer and then go do this other thing. It's like if you can build a business that gives income, impact, and freedom, it's something that you're more than likely going to be really happy and fulfilled with for a long time, doing good and making money in the community.
Yeah, I think it's really an important distinction here, and this third side of the triangle really is intended to speak most directly to the owner, right? To you as the owner of the gym, because all too often owners of all small businesses and particularly gyms feel shackled to a business, feel a business maybe they were once in love with and passionate about, but over time it's taken so much from them, right? So much life force and energy and money in some cases, and hasn't given enough in return. So when I think about this freedom side, I think about all the things that you need to do as a leader and owner of your gym to get the business to give back to you as much as you've given it to it, and to give you that sense of flexibility and freedom that is part of the reason you decided to be self-employed in the first place. Right? Many of us decided to work for ourselves to have some flexibility and freedom in terms of finances and scheduling, etc. And oftentimes the things that are keeping us from that are some of the things we talked about. You don't have good systems, for all the things we're talking about. You got a lot of red lights on this map here, right? And so I think this third side of the triangle, freedom, has three really important categories that are key drivers to giving yourself that sense of freedom as an owner. So let's start with the first one, Ben.
Yeah. So the first one on here is wealth creation. And this is distinctly different from money mastery in the sense that money mastery is, do you have a system for managing the money that comes into the business? Wealth creation is essentially, do you have a plan for whatever your retirement and future looks like?
Yeah, this is about taking money out of the business.
Yeah, and investing it in, maybe it's another location, maybe it's real estate, maybe it's index funds, maybe it's giving it to charity, whatever you're interested in. But it's like, if you think of money as an amplifier rather than like the source of all joy, even though it's always joked about as being the root of all evil, like do you have the money to do the things that matter to you in however many trips around the sun that you have?
Yeah, I think it's a really important one because all too often we talk to gym owners who are just been doing it for maybe a couple of years and are still not paying themselves like a livable wage. And so not only do we want you to be paid well for your time, but we want you to be able to retire someday and take vacations and, and live a life that you love. And I think that's, a big part of this side of the triangle is giving you that freedom financially. So we got wealth creation, give yourself a red, yellow, or green on that one. What's next?
Next one is powerful productivity. And this is around, well, self-explanatory of, are you being productive and getting the right things done?
Yeah.
But it also comes around, you have freedom of time.
Yeah.
It's great to have lots of money, but if you work 140 hours a week, like you don't get to spend any of it. It's like, well, kind of what's the point of that? It's where you really the master of your territory when it comes to managing your time, managing your schedule, and not just putting work things in there. That includes like family and attending your kids' sports games and going on vacations and spending time doing leisure activities and reading books or playing video games or whatever it is that lights you up. But it's around, do you have that? It's freedom of money, then you have freedom of time.
Yeah. It's really so often leaders, and I'll speak for myself, we just get pulled in so many directions. We wear so many hats as small business owners. It's really hard to be disciplined, to spend the right amount of time on the right things. And so having that kind of powerful sense of personal productivity, that you're spending the right time on the right things, which includes family, sometimes your own health, right? I think is really important part of having a sense of freedom as a gym owner. So we got wealth creation contributes to freedom. Personal and powerful productivity contributes to freedom. What's the third one?
The last one here is relational leadership. And this one I could argue either way on this one, but this is around it's not just having a high performing team. It's really, do you have a number two who can do things in your stead? Because we talk to so many gym owners who, if they go on vacation, which they haven't done for a while and really want to do, the gym just like stays static while they're
Hmm.
gone. And having the right people in the right seats who not just like know how to do the things, but I would describe as would make the same decisions you would if you were present,
Hmm.
is really powerful for making sure that you have a business that is, a little bit cheesy here, but like potentially could outlast you.
Yeah.
And even if it's not going to outlast you, at least can make it more than a few years. And it requires a next level of management and leadership, which is more in your domain since you're getting your doctorate in this, around leadership and really stepping into what leadership is. It's an identity shift from trainer to business owner to leader. And it's kind of answering the question, or begging the question, of who do you need to become in order to make this successful?
Yeah. Beautifully said. I think it's a great way to think about it. And I think all too often people are a little nervous to embrace that identity as like a leader of their community and the leader of their business. And I think that until you find the right leadership approach for you and your community and your context and your team, you're not going to have the freedom you want until you've built the relationships that really serve all the outcomes you're trying to get, right? That really serve the people that you're working with. It's hard to have a sense of freedom when you feel like you spend so much time managing people in a really arduous, painful, emotionally destructive way. Like you really have to find a leadership approach that feels and works well for you. Feels great and works well. So I think the relationships you form as a leader say a lot.
Yeah.
All right,
And I mean,
cool, good.
I was going to say, speaking to my specific example here, like this is a piece that has, as you know, Michael, drastically changed my level of fulfillment with my business, is having someone who's a very capable number two.
Yeah,
Like Leisha can do, I'm not trying to like play stupid here, but there's things happening at the gym that I do not know about and I do not need to know about so that I can do other things that fill my cup.
yeah,
And our wants and needs are going to evolve from, when I started my gym, I was 25 years old. I'm now 35 years old, goodness. And like our needs and wants change. And I don't know, obligation is a strong word, but I feel a dedication to
yeah,
the work that we're doing to keep equality there. And by elevating the right people to those seats and learning the leadership trial and error along the way, was my
yep,
approach. Um, it really does align with that freedom piece, and like, who do
yeah.
you want to be as a person and where do you want to go? Because we have so much to offer as trainers in the fitness industry. And I don't know, I guess I don't want to see people like weighing themselves down with a ball and chain that's unnecessary.
Yeah. Well, we got that third category of freedom, the third side of the triangle, and it has wealth creation, powerful productivity, and relational leadership. So give yourselves a red, yellow, or green. And that completes the triangle. We got income, impact, freedom, with kind of the three categories under each, the three kind of sub drivers under each of those. And hopefully at this point you have, at least in your head or written down, a red, yellow, and green for each. I know we're going to be short on time here, but in brief, Ben, what do people do next? Once they've done this assessment, what do you do with that information?
Well, first is celebrate your greens.
Yeah.
Please celebrate your greens. If you're anything like every entrepreneur I know, if you saw a grid of 100 optional checkboxes and 99 were checked and one was an X, you would be like, what the hell happened there?
Yeah.
99 is an amazing score. Celebrate your greens. And then take a look at your yellows and reds to see which ones are going to be the top priority for you. And let's say you have like 4 reds or 5 reds. Um, please don't try to tackle them all at once.
Mm-hmm.
Tackle them one, maybe 2 at a time in a way that aligns with your goals. So, for instance, if 6-star service was a red for you and your attrition is not where you want it to be, maybe that's a piece that you need to tackle first. I will say
Yeah.
a lot of this is downstream from lead flow. So, if you're generally good everywhere, but lead flow is red, or even if you're generally yellow everywhere, I would start with lead flow, because that you need the people to make the money to serve them. It all comes downstream of that. But it's pick the 1 or 2 that are priority for you and your business. And then your
Yeah.
job is to ruthlessly tackle those things until your reds become yellow and your yellows become green, and to say no to everything else because it's a distraction.
Yeah. Great.
It's not a hell yes, it's a hell no type of idea.
Yeah.
And if you do 1 or 2 of those things a quarter, your business will be absolutely transformed 12 months from now.
Yeah, well said, my friend. I think that's a great summary of the instructions, and maybe we'll come back on another episode and dig deeper on like what to do even more. But I think that's fantastic. Is pick a few things you can focus on that really going to give you the biggest return on your investment. Make them priorities, and I think keep plugging away at that. Like you said, making the reds yellow and the yellows green slowly over time. If you do that for a year, your business will look radically different. If you really get these 9 drivers right, you will absolutely have more income, impact, and freedom, and you will have built a gym and a life that you love, which is what we're all about. So thanks for this great podcast. I appreciate it, Ben. I think this model is really helpful, and I think we're going to keep screaming it from the rooftops. Dear listeners, if this was valuable, please go give us a 5-star review anywhere you listen to this podcast. And if you want to join Mark for this free 2-hour workshop, giving you a 2025 marketing calendar for free, go into the show notes, click the link, and claim your spot today. Thanks, Ben.
That would be a great way to turn your lead flow and sales into greens, is attend the webinar.
Yeah, attend the webinar. If you got any reds over on income, attend the webinar. I mean, it's free, y'all. It'll help you level up and give you a great roadmap for marketing in 2025. So awesome. Thanks again, Ben. See you on the next one.
Looking forward to it.